It doesn't matter if you finish the race first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, last. All that matters is that you finish the race. It's just as important as what trophy you come home with. Guys, this is episode number 52 of the Cozy Corner of Cinema, being recorded and later uploaded in the nick of time on this beautiful Monday, March 27th, 2023. Oh man, I tell you, what a weekend it's been. I try to get these episodes up earliest Thursday and absolute latest Monday. I try not to upload them too late, sort of as a way of signifying the weekend. You know, a lot of us see the weekend as those moments, those hours and those minutes that we get to have to ourselves. A lot of us don't work on the weekends. Some of us do, like myself. I work on Sundays, so I have Fridays and Saturdays to go about my business and pursue the dreams and goals I would like to pursue. You know, it's a beautiful signifying thing that people, they have this idea of the Friday mentality where they get to the end of the work week, they're done with their 9 to 5, they're not listening to their boss, they're not doing their work, they get to go home and do whatever it is, man. They have those 72 hours of just pure bliss that they can do whatever they want. You want to go out and see some friends and, socialize and meet some people, or maybe you want to stay inside and get some work done, get your dreams done, take in some beautiful art, take in some novels, some films, go to a museum if you decide to go out. It's your time, man. But the thing is that Friday mentality, you got to have that all week, man, because we all have, most of us have the burden of a 9 to 5 job, of a job that, we would like to do something else. We'd like to do something that our dreams we'd like to get paid for. You ask a guy in the street, what do you want to do? I want to be an amazing architect. What are you doing now? Oh, I'm working at a a gym or something like that. I'm working at a retail place. It's like, well, you can be a great architect if you're willing to put in the time and the work, man, But what I say before, the Friday mentality, is you gotta have that all week. And when I say the Friday mentality, I don't mean the idea that you gotta be walking around with a big old smile on your face, this kind of forced positivity like, hey, the world's great, the world's, grand, this and that. We all got our problems, man. Except we all feel down sometimes, and we all feel like, some days are easier than others. Maybe somebody says something to you that hurts your feelings, or maybe you discover a piece of news that doesn't sit right with you, man. It's not about just lying to yourself and being like, oh, well, just stay positive, stay positive. Like, no way, man. You're going to be setting yourself back way further than if you just taking your feelings, man. But when I say the Friday mentality, it's that today is Monday. When you get home from work after you did your day of work, what are you gonna do when you get home? You're gonna sit down with a beer and just watch some TV show and then go to bed. If that's what you want to do, man, and that's what makes you happy doing, then do it, man. Then you've already won at life, and we're all, envious of you. But that ain't me, man. When I get home from work, I have plenty to do. I have plenty to do here, and I have plenty to do creatively, man. I gotta tell you, it's all about finding that routine, and that's the thing, man. We all gotta have our own routines, no matter what it is, in our daily lives, in our personal lives, little things, maybe when you get in your car, you have your routine, you check the mirrors, you make sure your seatbelt's on, you make sure your emergency brake's not on, to grander things like what are you going to do today, what is your routine going to be, and, my whole life has been managed by routines that I know what to do, when to do them, and how to do them, man. I know that when I get home, I have X amount of time to get writing done. I have X amount of time to get reading done. I have X amount of time to get watching done. And sometimes you have to sacrifice one thing or another to fit in that routine. I'm working on a big project right now that's been taking up a lot of my time, man. I've been editing a short that me and some acquaintances made. So while the writing has taken a hit in terms of getting the time to do it, because I can't carve out too much time when it comes to watching, I got to keep that up because, you fall behind sometimes or got to keep time with reading. You're still putting in that creative energy and that creative work. You're not just going home. You're not just sitting there and staring at the wall and talking about, oh, people like, they get out of work and they're just like, oh, you believe my day, this person said this to me at work and, oh man, then this happened, this and that. It's like, well, hey man, the work day's behind you. You deal with that when you get to that at work tomorrow, man. When you get home, you got that Friday mentality, man. That doesn't mean stay up late, and don't get sleep and I'll stay up all night and do this and that. Man, that'd be great if you didn't have to sleep. You get so much more done. But that Friday mentality of, hey man, this is my time. I'm gonna get the work done that I need to get done, and the results and the rewards will benefit when they come to me. It's great, man. I tell you. Let me get a sip of this, and we're gonna keep on talking, man. Got a lot to do this week, man, but it's all gonna be done in due time. All it takes is one step at a time, man. You're gonna look at the bigger picture. You look at, look at a great film, look at a masterpiece, look at an epic film. I don't know, look at like Apocalypse Now, and you're like, oh, what the hell? You watch, oh, Francis Coppola, he made this masterpiece, no problem, man. No way, man. You think that was made no problem? You gotta be out of your mind, man. He persevered, and it's insanity. He pulled it off, and he made a masterpiece, and it's that's actually funny. I jumped to that film immediately. A film like that being a notorious shoot as it is. Especially after reading Leave the Gun, Take the Cannoli about the really just almost hell that Coppola went through to make The Godfather, and the issues that he was having with the Paramount executives, with what was it, Bob Evans and the other guy who I don't remember his name, but he was fighting for Coppola and wanting him to succeed. I haven't watched that show, The Offer, on Paramount Plus. I'm not really a TV miniseries kind of guy, but I've heard pretty good things. I've already read the book, so I don't really need to, I don't really have any interest in seeing a dramatized version of that, but it's crazy, man. It's just crazy that he makes that, and then I've mentioned before numerous times, in one decade, he makes 4 of the best films of all time, and then you have John Sayles, what the hell did that come from? John Cazale, gosh, man, I'm thinking of John. I was just talking to somebody about John Sayles the other day, so it's funny how that popped up. You have John Cazale in he was only in 5 films, and it's 5 of the best films of all time, man. It's wild, but have that Friday mentality all week, man, so that when you get to where you need to get to, and you get to that point, you see, wow, you know what? I really came a long way doing this, and now I get to see the finished product, whatever that might be. Whether it's your writing or your painting, or maybe you want to be an actor and you want to, go, do some shorts, or you want to be a director and film some stuff. Ain't no one gonna be waiting for you to do it, man. You got to take control of your own life, man. If you've been waiting around for somebody else, you've been waiting a long time. Speaking of waiting a long time, I shouldn't wait any longer to get a new chair, man. I feel like since the first episode a year ago, I've been talking about getting this new chair. I haven't gotten it yet, because it still works pretty well. It's just very squeaky, and I've had it for quite a long time. But anyways, man, I'm going to get a sip of this, and we're going to talk about some films today, some interesting films that I watched real recently. I'm going to talk about a film from late 90s, man. Let me get the year up right here. I want to say it's 98 or 97. I'm sorry. What am I talking about? It's 99. I didn't even finish typing in. I remember it's from 99. This is one that, it's funny. It was late last Friday night. I was texting an acquaintance of mine, and I said, hey, man, I came across this film. Do you happen to own it by any chance? Can I borrow it? And in a crazy enough fashion, it's let me get here. He would text me back. He said, yeah, I got this film, man. You want to borrow it? And man, I was on that like white on rice, man. I was like, that is awesome. Talking about a film from 1999 directed by, a documentary directed by Gao Lewis. And, I guess also written by Kelly Morris. Not really sure how you write it. I guess not, when I say write a documentary, I don't exactly mean, like a narrative script. I guess sort of just like the outline or anything like that. We have this film, it's called Sex, the Annabel Chong story. I came across this title by accident, and I got very curious because I've said before, if you guys listened to that episode I did a long time ago, about the documentary The Bridge and how much I liked it. And how much I love documentaries, man. I love documentaries about the adult industry as well. I find that all very fascinating. It's like it really is the other Hollywood, man. It's totally fascinating. But this documentary here, we have this lead adult actor. Her name is Annabel Chong, and she'd done in the context of this film, she had done a couple of adult videos and stuff. She started to make a name for herself. She's got a fan club and all that, and she has this idea, man. And she wants to be in the largest what is it, gangbang? I guess you would say it is. I think her original goal was to have sex with 300 men in 10 hours, but ultimately ended up doing 251 men in 10 hours. So it's an interesting way the documentary is handled, man, because initially, so you're watching the film and it jumps a lot in time. Like early on, they talk about Annabelle, they say right off about Annabelle Chong, you did it, you had the biggest gangbang ever. They're asking her, she's on Jerry Springer. They're asking her, why are you doing this, man? What do you got, what's the point of all this? And we see kind of a variety of different answers, but primarily she talks about wanting to take the idea of sex back to like a woman, and how she talks about if a guy has sex with all these ladies, he's a stud, but if a woman does it, she's a whore or a slut. She wants to kind of take that back, like a feministic approach. And what's interesting about the documentary is that the way, like I said before, the way that the timeline is handled, where we jump, almost immediately, we see a little bit of the actual making of the video itself. I think I would say this probably would be an NC-17 film, because there's some graphic nudity in it, but overall you don't actually see any of the action or anything like that. But they talk about, how it happened and stuff. We see some stuff on set, and then we go to the aftermath of it. They talk about, it's really kind of like a downward spiral of a documentary, really, where we kind of just see, Annabelle Chong is such a fascinating person, because you're watching this documentary and you can see her almost acting kind of differently in different points in time. And, you could look into it however which way you could. I don't really know much about Annabelle Chong previously to this, man. I want to talk about something after the fact. But it was, the first part of this documentary, when she's, when she's talking about doing this gangbang, and then afterwards she's got like this very shaky kind of character. Like she's got like a shaky voice. She's very thin. And you don't want to make any speculations or anything like that. You don't want to be a jerk and just kind of make these assumptions. But you start thinking a couple different things, like, is there something more going on here? And then later on, we cut more in time. We start to see kind of a different, not even a different version of her per se, but really we start to see a different kind of side. And the documentary talks about kind of the the aftermath of it, kind of how she really kind of got, I shouldn't even say kind of, she really got screwed over by the distributors on this. They promised her money, she didn't get money, and you can see her trying to cope with it. She's like, well, I said I want to do it anyways, and this and that, and but they screwed her out of like $10,000, man. And I don't want to give the whole documentary away, man. I will say the documentary is I looked up a little bit about it after the fact, man, and I think there was some controversy behind it. From what I read, Annabelle Chong, who the director Go Lewis, however you say his name, this is his only credit, and according to her, she was dating him at the time, and she said that he left some stuff out that was not in the documentary. She says that some of the timeline stuff isn't quite accurate. Specifically at the end, there's a stinger at the end, sort of, that she says isn't accurate, which is curious, because there's some and I gotta be vague about some of this stuff, man. One, I don't really want to get too explicit. I'm trying to make this a PG-13 kind of program, man. But on the other hand, it's like she's saying some stuff that, if it's strange the way she phrased some things, if it's not meant to take place after. And I don't really want to say anything more than that, but it's just, after the title card comes up and and she's talking about something, I'm thinking like, well, wait a minute, wouldn't that be after the fact? It's hard to explain what I'm trying to say, but obviously I don't want to go into it, man. But I did like the documentary, man, quite a bit. I was Googling Annabel Chong because I wasn't familiar with her as an adult actor, man. I consider myself fairly well versed in the golden age of porn, but when it comes to later on, when the introduction of home video, and a lot of the 90s into early 2000s kind of adult era, that's really where I kind of am not as knowledgeable about a lot of it, man. I know some, but I'm definitely not as knowledgeable as I am about the 60s to the golden age in the 70s. But there's an article that I found pretty interesting from Vice, who sometimes their articles can be kind of hit or miss for me, but it's an interesting kind of point of view that I think was written in 2020 during the lockdown and all that, where they were talking about her reaction to the documentary, going to Sundance with it, answering kind of inappropriate questions from some of the reporters, and how, it would be interesting to see a follow-up documentary about this now, kind of Annabel Chong looking back on this point. But the vibe I kind of got from the article, man, is that maybe she is trying to leave that part of her behind, man. She's into coding, and like she's into, I recommend that argument. I don't want to butcher any of what they're saying, but it was an interesting point to see how she kind of wanted to move on from it and didn't want this to be who she is as a person, sort of that. I mean, there was one moment in the film that I actually thought it was pretty. It was pretty wild, man, in terms of getting it on camera. There's a confrontation at the end of this film that is pretty emotional, man. I was kind of surprised. I'm like, wow, I don't know if, I don't know how much they ran by Annabelle for the documentary. I maybe according to her, not enough, or not, at all. I really have no idea, but it's very interesting stuff. And I mean, I'd recommend this to people who are fans of documentaries about the adult industry. This is one of the good ones, man. At least I think so. Other great ones, Inside Deep Throat. Gosh, my mind is drawing a blank right there. I tell you, I was going to record this yesterday, but oh my gosh, man, I came home from work and my body and my mind were saying, man, you ain't getting that microphone out. You're going to be sitting down. You're going to be catching up on these films. And I said, you know what? That's exactly what I'm going to do. Because I watched this late last night, and the film I had watched previously before this, which I actually liked quite a bit. What the hell was it called? Poison for the Fairies, I believe it was called. The one that Vinegar Syndrome just put out. To me, make sure I got the name of that right. Yeah, Poison for the Fairies. Very cool Mexican, I don't even want to say horror film, 'cause it's really not that. It probably will be listed as horror, but it's directed by this guy, Carlos Enrique Taboyada, if I said that correctly. Yeah, it's really more of like a dark fantasy film, but it's very cool stuff. But towards the end of that film, because it's very dialogue heavy, I found myself kind of getting a little tired, and yeah, I even nodded off for a second or two. But when this came on, man, I was like, wow, this is really fascinating, man. It's crazy, man. They're going through all these guys, and it's just like they're not, they're disputing about who, testing the guys and stuff. And this is like, this is a decade after the AIDS, epidemic and all that. And it's just crazy how they were so lax on just this sort of thing. I mean, they talk about how, Annabelle was told that they were all going to be tested and stuff, but then the other guy was saying like, nah, man, these guys just walked in, I can only imagine how bad that room must have smelled. Good Lord, man. But the documentary, the DVD is out of print. I was curious looking on eBay and stuff, and it looks like the DVD goes for about $35-$40. I'd love to get a Blu-ray of this at some point, maybe with some new interviews, but I don't know how, I don't know if Annabel Chong would be willing to really discuss this, man. As somebody watching this film, there's a lot to take away from it. As somebody who's not familiar with her, like a lot of the background, some of these people, I really have no idea. I mean, I can only judge as a viewer, but I found this to be very fascinating and worth your time should you find yourself interested in this sort of thing, man. And actually, I was going to talk about another title, but I wanted to talk about this that I watched a couple weeks ago that I wanted to mention at some point. There's so many titles you watch that, and so many things you come across, so many books, so many pieces of art that you can only talk about so much, man. But I did want to talk about this because I found this very interesting, where so I'm watching this film, man, and I've had this Blu-ray for a little while now. This was a Criterion Blu-ray, another documentary, man. All right, getting into some possible feminist issues or not. It's depending how you look at the Annabel Chong story, but this one definitely so. And I'd had this documentary, and I was like, all right, I'm sure it'll be interesting. Maybe I'll check it out at some point. And it finally came up to watch. And this is a film that I think was originally. I don't think it came out until years after it was actually made. Yeah, let's see here. Filmed in 1971, the final version of the film was released in 1979. That's an 8-year gap right there. Wow, that's wild, man. Directed by geez Louise, man. This is me trying to pronounce names. Directed by Chris Hegedus and D.A. Panabaker. Town Bloody Hall from 1979. This was one that totally won me by surprise, man. When I first started out this film, I kind of had an idea of it. You have real, Norman Mailer, who's a very known writer. He's a very controversial writer. I'm not as familiar with his work. I came across this big book that I really want to read when I get the opportunity to, and I'm done with my current book. I think I'm going to hop right into that one. I think he also wrote some screenplays as well, to my knowledge. I'm not going to lie, I'm not as familiar with a lot of his work. But, he directed Tough Guys Don't Dance with, what's his name, with Wings Hauser, I think. Wings Hauser's in that, right? Or am I making that up? Yeah, Wings Hauser and Ryan O'Neal, Isabella Rossellini. Oh my gosh, man. Anyways. But you start out this film, and this film is very entertaining. You have Norman Mailer versus these 4, or I think it was 5, kind of women's activists. And what's wild about the film, and what's so fascinating about it, is that you're watching it, and it really almost kind of, and I say descends into chaos. I don't mean people are throwing chairs. I don't mean people are jumping up and going crazy, man. It really is a descent into chaos, because Norman Mailer pretty much, it's him against first off these ladies, and then second off the audience, man. It's completely wild, where you're hearing these arguments, and they're talking about different women's rights issues, and I'll admit a lot of the context of what they were saying in terms of, I don't know if this was referencing something else or not. It went a little over my head. I wasn't entirely understanding some of it, but it was very fascinating. Norman Mailer's an interesting character, and just the way the audience was growing impatient with Norman, and how Norman was very, he has some good remarks in this film, and then other times, it gets the audience is applauding, and other times they're booing him, and it's like a total, just like back and forth that, on one hand, you're watching it because you want to get some sort of educational background with a topic, this kind of era where women were, getting more vocal about women's rights and stuff, and, a lot of more kind of feminist kind of ideas were coming into place, man. So you're watching it from that kind of historical point of view, but it's also, you got the entertainment point of view, where if it was a dry panel, ain't no one would be talking about this film all these years later, other than just a footnote and a historical point where you go, hey, remember when Norman Mailer did that thing with those ladies on the panel? And they go, yeah, I remember that, but I haven't seen it in forever. Who even knows about that? But then now we're watching it in 2023, and we're reveling in the entertainment of it. It's just great to see this back and forth. It seems like everyone in the film is just you don't get a true sense of maliciousness from the people on stage. I mean, even though Norman Mailer is going up against these ladies, you don't really get a sense he's angry about the whole thing. I mean, or if he is, he didn't show it to me. Like I said, I'm not familiar with his work or him as a person. I know he's been a controversial kind of guy, but watching this just as a one-time singular fella without any kind of real background in it, I can only observe what I'm seeing on the screen. I'm not actually sure if there were any or what the features were on this release, man. I hadn't looked too in depth into it. I believe Norman Mailer's been passed for a couple of years now. Yeah, died in 2007, man. Real fascinating stuff, though. I wish I had talked about this one sooner, because I would have written some notes down for it. I'm kind of going off just creative thought on this one, but I wanted to mention that because for whatever reason, the Annabel Chong story kind of had me thinking of this film in terms of this, I said before, this documentary, this feminist kind of point of view, man. It's real fascinating stuff, man. You definitely want to get yourself onto some of these documentaries, because you're going to be entertained and you're going to learn something, man. That's what you watch them for. I'm going to be cutting this episode a little bit short today. I'm going to tell you, this week's been so busy, you have no idea. If you know how busy things have been, and make your head spin into oblivion, man. But let's see. Some of these... I may have to talk about that next week, man. All right, there's another film I was going to talk about, but I might not have the time for it right now. But I am going to cut it a little bit short. So you guys enjoy this week ahead. Make sure you're working on whatever it is you need to work on. Don't slack off. And if you do slack off, make sure you get back up and get the job done. Because all that matters is not who finishes first, but if you finish. All right, man? You guys take care.